This is the holiday edition of Uncle Grigory's Stories coming to you on the solstice, December 21st, shortest day of the year. From here on out, longer days, more sun, and hopefully less cooties. Oh my gosh. But Uncle Grigory, as I call myself when I'm doing these stories, normally you expect tales of terror or horror or that sort of thing, especially around the Halloween. But tonight I don't have any scary ghost stories, but I do have tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago, featuring The Gift of the Magi, a famous short story by O. Henry. But first, I've got a poem or two, and then after The Gift of the Magi, we'll conclude with a Christmas classic I'm sure all of you guys will know. Well, welcome again to this holiday edition of Uncle Grigory's Stories, and I'm just going to minimize the thing just to make sure I don't get any beeps or anything going on. Let me just check Facebook to make sure that the feed is right, and I think we're good. Okay, all right. Well, this is an original poem of mine that I wrote a few years ago, a tweak here or there, but it's a poem specifically sort of suited for the solstice, when the days are getting longer, the sun is awakening from its long winter's nap, if you will, even though it's just really the beginning of winter. Even though, gosh, it feels like it's already really halfway went through winter. It's chilly as it's gotten the past couple of days here. But here is an original poem of mine to start us off. The idea of lights. We have met the dimness with substitute lights, so plugged into the idea of longer days on the way, warmer thoughts of spring, that we have laid out all these landing lights to welcome a rising sun. We have met the coldness with handheld warmth, holding a hot chocolate, marshmallows buoyant as our hearts are, our gloved hands imagine holding sweet tea bare in the shade. Later, evening sparkling fireflies glow, the embers of summer's warmer love, until autumn comes again. It cools down our heated thoughts and minds, sweeps away what the sun has made, because even the brightest need to be comforted by rest, and the eyelids of the sky are heavy and solemn. We have met the hatred with the truth of this yearly gift, to see the divine in each face, the idea that we are all sons and daughters of the Lord of the dance, leading the songs that lead to happiness, which makes each shining morning a hope-filled unwrapping of us. Because creation and we, in winter's temporary chill and shadowy days, love to deck the halls and sing the lights back on. Next up, I have a little fun little thing from this book that the wifey got from me recently, collected writings. I don't know if it's all the collected writings of John Lennon. I knew he wrote poetry and cute little stories and that sort of thing in his own inimical style. If you're familiar with the song, I Am the Walrus, well, this book is full of that sort of madness. And there is just a little cute little holiday story in here. And I don't know if it's a winter holiday story, but I thought I'd just share this just to mix up the schedule a little bit. And it's called The Famous Five Through Woe Now Abbey. It was holiday time for The Famous Five by Enid Blyton. Tom, Stan, Dave, Nigel, Bernice, Arthur, Harry, Wee Jockey, Matumbo, and Craig. For the past 17 years, the fabled five had been forming into adventures on varicose islands and secret valets with their famous ill-bred dog, Craigsmere. Their popular Uncle Philpo, with his popular curly white hair and his rugged red weather-battered face and his popular fisherman's boots and his big junky sweater and his little cottage. Grudleypod, Grudleypod, the train seemed to say. Grudleypod, we're on our holidays. And they were. Upon arrival, they noticed a mysterious stranger who bode no ill. Boy, what's this 'ere? He said from behind. We're the famous fire by Greennod Bladder, replied Tom, Stan, Dave, Nigel, Bernice, Arthur, Harry, Wee Jockey, Matumbo, and Craig. And they were. Good, I guess. So that's a little madness from John Lennon, who we still miss terribly, don't we? It's okay. I don't want to get into that. Well, next up, the short story, and it is quite short, that is, The Gift of the Magi, which I think is a story that has met some cynicism in Western civilization, in which people are more and more obsessed with, self-prioritization and what's in it for me, especially in a relationship when, the idea of giving and sacrifice seems to be alien to a lot of people. And I think this is an important message for our day and age, The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. $1.87. That was all. And 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned with the silent imputation of parsimony that such close dealings implied. 3 times Della counted it. $1.87. And the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing to do but flop down on the shabby little couch and howl. So Della did it, which instigates the more reflection that life is made up of sobs, sniffles, and smiles, with sniffles predominating. While the mistress of the home is gradually subsiding from the first stage to the second, take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 a week. It did not exactly beggar description, but it certainly had that word on the lookout for the mendacity squad. In the vestibule below was a letterbox into which no letter would go, and an electric button from which no mortal finger could coax a ring. Also appertaining thereunto was a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, the letters of Dillingham looked blurred, as though they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim, and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good. Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with the powder rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at a gray cat walking a gray fence in a gray backyard. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. She had been saving every penny she could for months, with this result. $20 a week doesn't go far. Expenses had been greater than she had calculated. They always are. Only $1.87 to buy a present for Jim. Her Jim. Many a happy hour she had spent planning for something nice for him. Something fine and rare and sterling. Something just a little bit near to being worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim. There was a pier glass between the windows of the room. Perhaps you have seen a pier glass in an $8 flat. A very thin and very agile person may, by observing his reflection in a rapid sequence of longitudinal strips, obtain a fairly accurate conception of his looks. Della, being slender, had mastered the art. Suddenly, she whirled from the window and stood before the glass. Her eyes were shining brilliantly, but her face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly, she pulled down her hair and let it fall to full length. Now, there were two possessions of the Jane Dillingham Youngs in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and his grandfather's. The other was Della's hair. Had the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out the window sometime to dry, just to depreciate Her Majesty's jewels and gifts. Had King Solomon been the janitor, with all his treasures piled up in the basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed, just to see him pluck at his beard with envy. So now Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee and made itself almost a garment for her. And then she did it up again nervously and quickly. Once she faltered for a moment and stood still while a tear or two splashed on the worn red carpet. On went her old brown jacket, on went her old brown hat. With the whirl of skirts and with the brilliant sparkle still in her eyes, she fluttered out the door and down the stairs to the street. Where she stopped, the sign read, Madame Saufrenrie, hair goods of all kinds. One flight up, Della ran and collected herself, panting. Madame, large, too white, chilly, hardly looking the Saufrenrie. Will you buy my hair? Asked Della. I buy hair, said Madame. Take your hat off and let's have a sight at the looks of it. Down rippled the brown cascade. $20, said Madame, lifting the mass with a practiced hand. Give it to me quick, said Della. Oh, and the next 2 hours tripped by on rosy wings. Forget the hashed metaphor. She was ransacking the stores for Jim's present. She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it in any of the stores, and she had turned all of them inside out. It was a platinum fob chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone and not by matriculous ornamentation, as all good things should do. It was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew that it must be Jim's. It was like him. Quietness and value, the description applies to both. $21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with the 87 cents. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company. Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sly on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of a chain. When Della reached home, her intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. She got out her curling irons and lighted the gas and went to work repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love, which is always a tremendous task, dear readers, a mammoth task. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny, close-lying curls that made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She looked at her reflection in the mirror long, carefully, and critically. If Jim doesn't kill me, she said to herself, Before he takes a second look at me, he'll say I look like a Coney Island chorus girl. Well, what can I do? Oh, what could I do with $1.87? At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made, and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, hot and ready to cook the chops. Jim was never late. Della doubled the fob chain in her hand and sat on the corner of the table near the door that he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stairway down on the first flight, and she turned white for just a moment. She had a habit of saying little silent prayers about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered, "Please, God, make him think I'm still pretty." The door opened and Jim stepped in and closed it. He looked thin and very serious. Poor fellow, he was only 22, and to be burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat, and he was without gloves. Jim stopped inside the door, as immovable as a setter at the scent of quail. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read, and it terrified her. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly with that peculiar expression on his face. Della wriggled off the table and went for him. "Jim, darling," she cried, "don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow out again. You don't mind, don't you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a beautiful, nice gift I've got for you." "You've cut off your hair?" asked Jim laboriously, as if he had not arrived at that patent fact yet, even after the hardest mental labor. "Cut it off and sold it," said Della. "Don't you like me just as well anyhow? I'm me without my hair, ain't I?" Jim looked about the room curiously. You say your hair is gone?" he said, with almost an air of idiocy. "You needn't look for it," said Della. "It's sold, I told you. Sold and gone, too. It's Christmas Eve, boy. Be good to me, for it went for you. Maybe the hairs of my head were counted," she went on with sudden serious sweetness, "but nobody could ever count my love for you. Shall I put the chops on, Jim?" Out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. He enfolded his Della. For 10 seconds, let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. $8 a week or $1 million a year. What is the difference? A mathematician or a wit would give you the wrong answer. The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. This dark assertion will be illuminated later on. Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. "Don't make any mistake, Dale," he said, "about me. I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut or a shave or a shampoo that could make me like my girl any less. But if you'll unwrap that package, you may see why you had me going a while at first." White fingers and nimble tore at the string and paper, and then an ecstatic scream of joy, and then, alas, a quick feminine change to hysterical tears and wails, necessitating the immediate employment of all the comforting powers of the Lord of the Flat. There lay the combs, a set of combs, side and back, that Della had worshipped long in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoiseshell, with jeweled rims, just a shade to wear in the beautiful vanished hair. They were expensive combs, she knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. And now they were hers, but the tresses that should have adorned the coveted adornments were gone. But she hugged them to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up with dim eyes and a smile and say, My hair grows so fast, Jim. And then Della leaped up like a little singed cat and cried, "Oh, oh!" Jim had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him eagerly upon her open palm. The dull, precious metal seemed to flash with the reflection of her bright and ardent spirit. "Isn't it a dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it. You'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it." Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. "Dell," said he, "let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them a while. They're too nice to use just at present. I sold the watch to get the money to buy your combs. Now suppose you put the chops on." The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two were the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are wisest. Everywhere they are wisest. They are the Magi. Now, to finish this evening entertainment, quote unquote, I will finish with a classic Christmas poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, otherwise known as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." And this may be common knowledge to those of you who are watching and or listening, but it's you can't underestimate the influence of this poem on our understanding of Christmas, of Santa Claus, and the whole thing. Published anonymously in 1823 and later attributed to Clement Clarke Moore, who claimed the authorship in 1837. It's from this poem that we get how Santa looks like, the 8 reindeer, the whole thing. And this poem, along with Coca-Cola advertisements who featured Santa Claus in a red suit, this is where we basically get our understanding of Santa Claus and the Christmas tradition of gift giving and everything that goes with it. A Visit from St. Nicholas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap, when out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wandering eyes did appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver, so lively and quick, I knew in a moment he must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Cupid, on Comet, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. as leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the rooftop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry! His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all his stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night."